am sitting in my home office, staring at my phone in complete shock. I read the text message again. Don't come to the wedding. I mean it. It's from Harper, my younger sister, the same sister whose $200,000 wedding I've been paying for over the past 8 months. Every vendor, every deposit, every upgrade, all from my savings. The wedding is in 3 days. I've already taken time off work. My dress is hanging in my closet. And now this. 8 months ago, everything felt different. I remember the exact moment my phone rang on that Tuesday evening. I was reviewing contracts at my apartment in Boston when Harper's name flashed across the screen. Her voice came through breathless with excitement. Cornelia! He proposed. Brandon actually proposed. I could hear the joy radiating through the phone, and despite my exhaustion from a 14-hour workday, I felt genuinely happy for her. Harper was 24, working as a social media coordinator for a boutique marketing firm, and she'd been dating Brandon for 2 years. He was a personal trainer with charm and confidence that sometimes bordered on arrogance, but Harper seemed completely in love. That's wonderful. Tell me everything, I said, setting my work aside. She launched into the story. Brandon had taken her to this upscale restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and a sommelier, had arranged for a private corner table overlooking the city lights. When dessert arrived, the ring was presented on the plate. Harper described it in breathless detail. A princess-cut diamond that caught the light from every angle, set in platinum with smaller diamonds along the band. What she didn't mention until later was that the ring clearly cost more than Brandon should have been able to afford on a personal trainer's salary. But in that moment, hearing my little sister so happy, I didn't think about practical concerns. Harper and I had always been close, though our relationship had a particular dynamic. I was 28, 4 years older, and I'd always been the responsible one. Our parents, Diane and Robert, were retired high school teachers living on modest pensions in Vermont. They'd given us a loving childhood but couldn't provide financial help anymore. Growing up, I'd been the one helping Harper with homework, driving her to activities, and later helping her navigate college applications and job searches. Protection and support had become my default mode with her. 2 weeks after the engagement, Harper showed up at my apartment on a Saturday afternoon. I'd just finished a morning run and was making coffee when she knocked. The moment I opened the door, I could see she'd been crying. "What's wrong?" I asked, pulling her inside. Harper collapsed onto my couch, and the story spilled out. She'd been researching wedding venues and had found her absolute dream location, the Hawthorne Estate. It was this stunning, historic mansion about 40 minutes outside Boston, with manicured gardens that rolled down to overlook the harbor. The interior had crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and floor-to-ceiling windows. Harper showed me photos on her phone, and I had to admit, it was breathtaking. "It's perfect, Cornelia. It's everything I've ever imagined." But, her voice cracked. "But what? It costs $75,000 just for the venue. That's before catering, before anything else. Brandon and I have been saving, but we only have about $8,000. Mom and Dad can't help. We'd have to settle for something so much less than this, and She started crying again. "I know it sounds silly, but I've dreamed about my wedding my whole life." I sat next to her, my mind already running calculations. I'd been saving aggressively for years, living well below my means despite my salary as a corporate attorney at a prestigious Boston firm. I had $220,000 in savings. I'd been planning to use it as a down payment on a house, maybe in the next year or so. But watching Harper cry, seeing her dreams slipping away, something in me shifted. She was my little sister. I'd always taken care of her. What was money compared to her happiness? What if I helped? I heard myself say. Harper's head snapped up. What? What if I paid for the wedding? Not just the venue. All of it. Cornelia, no. That's too much. I couldn't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. I have savings. I want to do this for you. What happened next should have been my first warning. Harper's tears stopped instantly. Her face transformed into pure joy. She threw her arms around me, squealing with excitement. Really? Oh my gosh, really? This is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We spent the next hour talking about wedding plans. Harper promised it would be reasonable, that she'd be mindful of costs, that she just wanted something beautiful, but not excessive. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. As she was leaving, Harper paused at the door. Oh, by the way, I had dinner with Brandon and his friends last week. His best friend Tyler mentioned that he thinks you're too uptight or whatever. Not fun at parties? She laughed lightly. I told him he's wrong, obviously. You're just professional. The comment stung more than I wanted to admit, but I brushed it off. Well, I don't really know Tyler, so his opinion doesn't matter much. Harper shrugged and left, already texting on her phone, probably telling Brandon the good news. That evening, I was in my kitchen making dinner when I heard Harper's voice. My apartment walls were thin, and she was apparently standing in the hallway, talking to Brandon on the phone before heading to the elevator. I told you she'd pay for it, Harper said, her voice carrying clearly. Cornelia always does what I want. She's so predictable. I froze, my knife hovering over the vegetables I'd been chopping. Then I heard her laugh, the sound fading as she walked away. I stood there for a long moment, trying to convince myself I'd misheard. But I knew I hadn't. That casual dismissal, that certainty that I was manageable and predictable, it planted a seed of doubt that I tried very hard to ignore. The next few months became a masterclass in watching my savings evaporate, while my sister transformed into someone I barely recognized. Harper's reasonable wedding grew exponentially with each passing week. Every meeting with vendors turned into a showcase of excess. I'd started a detailed spreadsheet to track expenses, and watching those numbers climb felt like watching a slow-motion car crash. The dress came first. Harper insisted we go to this exclusive bridal boutique in downtown Boston, where appointments required a 3-month wait and a $200 deposit just to browse. The consultant brought out dress after dress, each more elaborate than the last. Harper finally settled on a custom gown, with hand-sewn lace, imported silk, and crystal beading that caught the light with every movement. $12,000. When I quietly suggested looking at other options, Harper's face crumpled. Don't you want me to feel beautiful on my wedding day? I signed the check. The flowers became an obsession. Harper found this celebrity florist who specialized in what she called garden romantic arrangements. $28,000 for roses, peonies, hydrangeas, and something called garden spray roses, all in blush and ivory tones. The florist's proposal included cascading installations for the ceremony arch, centerpieces that would rise 3 feet above each table, a floral runner for the entire length of the head table, and a flower wall for photos. It's a lot, I said carefully when Harper showed me the proposal. It's my wedding, Harper replied, her tone sharp. Don't you want it to be beautiful? The photographer and videographer package came to $18,000. The cake, an 8-tier creation with sugar, flowers, and gold leaf, cost $8,000. The band, a 12-piece ensemble that had played at celebrity weddings, required $25,000. Each time I hesitated, Harper had a response ready. You already agreed to pay for this. You can't back out now and ruin my wedding. Or, this is the only wedding I'll ever have. Don't you care about me? The guilt worked every time. Harper's behavior shifted as the months progressed. The grateful, appreciative sister who'd hugged me and promised to be reasonable disappeared. In her place was someone who made demands instead of requests. Cornelia, I need another $10,000 for the welcome dinner. Brandon wants to do a clam bake on the beach the night before the wedding. Cornelia, the bridesmaids' dresses from the first place look cheap in photos. I need $15,000 to get them custom made at this designer I found. When I tried to push back, even gently, Harper's response was always the same. You already started this. You can't back out now and ruin my wedding. She'd asked me to be her maid of honor, which should have been an honor. But then she added 6 other bridesmaids, all friends from college that I'd never met. The first bridal brunch, held at an upscale restaurant in Cambridge that I paid $400 for, was excruciating. I sat at the end of the table while Harper and her friends talked over me, making inside jokes and reminiscing about college parties I hadn't attended. They took photos together, group selfies with matching smiles, and somehow I was never quite in frame. When I tried to join the conversation, one of the bridesmaids named Jessica spoke over me to tell another story. Harper noticed but said nothing. She didn't defend me. She didn't make space for me. She just laughed along with her friends while I sat there feeling invisible despite being the one who'd picked up the check. I tried talking to our mother about it. I called her one evening, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained how Harper was treating me, how the costs had spiraled, how I was feeling used. "Harper is just stressed, sweetheart," Mom said gently. "Wedding planning is incredibly hard. You know how emotional she gets. And Cornelia, you're so successful. You have that wonderful job, that nice apartment. This is your gift to your sister. Try not to keep score." The conversation left me feeling worse than before. Even my own mother was dismissing my feelings. The expenses continued to mount. Harper decided the wedding needed a rehearsal dinner cruise around Boston Harbor, $22,000 for a private yacht, gourmet catering, and an open bar. Then she wanted hotel rooms for out-of-town guests at the boutique hotel near the venue, $18,000 for a room block. Then a videographer specifically for the getting ready process, separate from the wedding videographer, $8,000 to capture her and the bridesmaids drinking champagne and doing their makeup. My spreadsheet showed $190,000 spent, and we still had 3 months to go. What broke my heart more than the money was Harper's social media presence. She posted constantly about the wedding. Photos of flower samples, her dress fitting, table setting mock-ups. Every post was carefully curated, beautifully filtered, and accompanied by captions that made my stomach turn. "So blessed that things are working out for our dream wedding. When you work hard and save, you can have the wedding of your dreams. Manifestation is real. If you want something badly enough, the universe provides." Not once did she mention me. Not once did she acknowledge that I was funding every single detail she posted about. She was taking credit for everything, presenting herself as a hardworking bride who'd earned her fairy tale while I was being erased from the narrative. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I called her, my voice shaking with hurt. "Harper, I saw your Instagram post about saving and hard work, but I'm the one paying for everything. Don't you think that's a little dishonest?" There was a long pause. Then Harper's voice came through, cold and sharp. "Are you seriously asking me to post about how my sister is paying for my wedding? Do you want me to humiliate myself? To announce to everyone that I needed financial help? What's wrong with you?" "That's not what I meant. I just thought maybe you could acknowledge, privately, if not publicly, that this is a gift from me." I did acknowledge it. I said thank you, multiple times. "What more do you want, Cornelia? A medal? A parade?" We hung up without resolution, and I sat in my apartment feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. 6 weeks before the wedding, the distance between Harper and me became a chasm I could no longer ignore or rationalize. Harper stopped inviting me to wedding planning meetings. I'd find out through casual mentions that she'd met with the florist again, or had another tasting with the caterer. When I asked why she hadn't included me, her answer was always dismissive. "You're always working, Cornelia. I didn't want to bother you." But I'd specifically taken several days off and had told her I was available. She was actively choosing to exclude me. The breaking point should have been the dress shopping incident. Harper had mentioned wanting a second dress for the reception, something lighter and easier to dance in. I'd cleared my entire Saturday, excited to finally have sister time that didn't feel strained. I waited at my apartment all morning. By noon, I called her. "Oh, I went yesterday," Harper said casually. "I found the perfect one. It's being altered now." "Yesterday? But we had plans today. Did we?" I must have gotten confused. "Sorry." She didn't sound sorry at all. The bachelorette party was perhaps the most painful experience of the entire wedding planning process. Harper wanted a weekend in Miami, complete with a beachfront hotel, VIP club access, and a private yacht day. I paid $12,000 for flights, accommodations, and all the activities. From the moment we landed, I felt like an unwelcome guest at my own expense. The other bridesmaids had matching outfits for each event, coordinated without telling me. They'd created a group chat that I wasn't added to. At the hotel pool, they took photos that I wasn't invited into. At dinner the first night, they rearranged seats so I ended up at the far end of the table. Jessica, the bridesmaid who'd spoken over me at the brunch, was particularly cruel. At dinner, while everyone was drinking and laughing, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Some people just don't know how to have fun. They're too busy being uptight and judgy." She was looking directly at me when she said it. Harper laughed. She actually laughed. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried in a stall for 10 minutes. When I came back, no one had noticed I was gone. On the last night of the trip, I tried to talk to Harper privately. We were back at the hotel, and the others had gone to their rooms. I found Harper on the balcony, scrolling through photos on her phone. "Harper, can we talk?" "Sure," she said, not looking up. "I feel really excluded this weekend. Actually, I've felt excluded for months. In paying for everything, but in being treated like I don't matter." Harper finally looked at me, her expression cold. "What's your problem, Cornelia? Are you jealous?" The question stunned me. Jealous? No, I just want to feel included. I want to feel like my sister actually wants me at her wedding. The wedding I'm paying for. Harper's face hardened. There it is. I knew you'd throw that in my face eventually. I knew you'd use the money as leverage. Money doesn't buy you a personality, Cornelia. It doesn't make you fun or interesting or someone people want to be around. Her words hit like physical blows. I stepped back, speechless. "Everyone thinks you're boring," Harper continued. "Brandon's friends think so. My friends think so. Even Brandon thinks you're judgmental and uptight. I included you because you're my sister. But don't act like you're doing me some huge favor by being here." I turned and walked away before she could see me cry again. Flying home, I sat in my first-class seat that I'd paid for and wondered how everything had gotten so twisted. When had my gift become a burden? When had my love become leverage? The answer came 2 weeks before the wedding, and it destroyed any remaining illusions I had about my relationship with Harper. I'd stopped by Harper's apartment to help assemble wedding favors. She lived in a small one-bedroom in Somerville that she shared with Brandon. He was at the gym, so it was just us. Harper was on her computer, finalizing details with the wedding planner. I needed to use the bathroom. Harper's laptop was open on the table, and as I walked past, I saw a seating chart on the screen. My feet stopped moving. I scanned the head table. Brandon's groomsmen, Harper's bridesmaids, Brandon's parents, Harper's maid of honor, which was technically me, but my name wasn't there. I searched the entire seating chart. My name was at table 17, in the back corner of the venue, seated with distant cousins. I'd met maybe twice, and elderly relatives who'd need extra accommodations. "Harper," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why am I not at the head table?" She looked up, saw what I was staring at, and shrugged. "Brandon thinks the head table should just be the core group. People who photograph well together. You understand? Photograph well together. You know what I mean. The aesthetic? Don't make this a thing." I stood there, looking at my sister, trying to find any trace of the person I'd grown up with. The person I'd protected and supported and loved unconditionally. She wasn't there. I left without finishing the favors. 3 days later, while I was at Harper's apartment again, trying one last time to repair our relationship, my phone rang. The caller ID showed the wedding planner, Simone. I stepped into the hallway to take the call. "Hi, Cornelia. I have a quick question about the final guest count," Simone said. "Of course. What do you need?" Harper told me the final count is 208, and that includes removing the 4 people she cut from the list last week. I have you marked as one of the removals. Is that correct, or should I keep you on? The hallway tilted. "I'm sorry, what? You're listed as removed from the guest list. But since you're the one paying for everything, I wanted to confirm before I finalize the catering numbers. When did Harper remove me? About a week ago. She said it was complicated family dynamics and you'd mutually agreed you wouldn't attend. I hung up. I walked back into Harper's apartment. She was arranging ribbons on the favors, humming to herself. When were you going to tell me? I asked. She looked up, confused. Tell you what? That you removed me from the guest list. A week ago. Harper's face went pale, then red. Simone wasn't supposed to tell you yet. Yet? So you were planning to tell me, just not until when? The day before. I was going to talk to you this week. I was working up to it. Working up to uninviting me from the wedding I've spent $200,000 on. Harper stood up, defensive now. It's complicated, Cornelia. Brandon's family is judging me because of you. They think you're cold and judgmental. Every time you're around, you make everyone uncomfortable. I need my day to be perfect. And your energy is ruining it. I stared at her, this stranger wearing my sister's face, and something inside me finally broke. Not shattered, just quietly, definitively broke. Like a bone that's been fractured so many times it finally gives up trying to heal. Okay, I said softly. Okay. I left her apartment and drove home in complete silence. 3 days before the wedding, I was sitting in a conference room at my law firm, leading a meeting with 6 other attorneys about an upcoming corporate merger. My phone, sitting face down on the table, buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. During a break, I checked. 3 text messages from Harper. The first one simply said, "Don't come to the wedding." The second, "I mean it." The third, "I'll explain later, but just trust me on this." I excused myself from the meeting, walked to my office, and closed the door. My hands were shaking as I called Harper. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same result. An hour later, while I was trying to focus on contract language, my voicemail notification appeared. I listened to Harper's message, and her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "Look, Cornelia, I need you to understand. This wedding is about me and Brandon. Your energy is just off, okay? You're making everyone uncomfortable with your attitude. Brandon's family is judging me because of you. They think you're cold, and it's reflecting badly on me. I need my day to be perfect. I'll pay you back eventually, I promise. But I need you to not come. Mom and Dad agree with me. They think it's better this way. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I listened to the message 3 times, trying to understand how Wed arrived here. How the sister Eid loved and protected had become someone who could casually erase me. I called my parents. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. "Mom, did you know Harper uninvited me to the wedding?" There was a pause. "Harper called us this morning. She's very stressed, sweetheart. She thinks maybe it's better if you skip the ceremony. You can celebrate with them after the honeymoon." After the honeymoon? Mom, I paid for this wedding. I've spent over $200,000. I know, and that was very generous. But Harper needs to feel comfortable on her big day. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Can I talk to Dad? My father got on the phone, his voice tired. "Cornelia, Harper is having a crisis. Her wedding is in 3 days. Whatever issues you two need to work out, can't they wait? Dad, she uninvited me from a wedding I funded entirely. That's not an issue to work out. That's betrayal. Don't be dramatic. You're the older sister. Be the bigger person. By letting her erase me. By not making her wedding day about your hurt feelings." I hung up and realized with devastating clarity that my entire family had chosen Harper. Not because she was right, but because she was louder, more emotional, more demanding. It'd been reliable and strong for so long that nobody considered that I might need support too. That night, I went home to my apartment, opened a bottle of wine, and let myself feel everything I'd been suppressing for months. The hurt, the betrayal, the humiliation, the grief of losing not just a sister but the entire family dynamic it thought was real. I cried until I had no tears left. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up every contract I'd signed over the past 8 months. Venue contract, catering contract, florist agreement, photography package, Band contract. Every single document had my name as the primary client, not Harper's name. Not Harper and Brandon together. Just Cornelia Patterson. I read through the cancellation policies carefully. Most vendors had a 48 to 72-hour cancellation window. Some would refund partial deposits. Others would keep deposits but not charge the remaining balance. A few would refund everything. I was within the cancellation window for every single vendor. I sat back in my chair, my mind working through the logistics with the same precision I used for corporate law. Harper had uninvited me. Shed told me not to come. Shed made it clear that my presence was unwelcome. Fine. If I wasn't invited to the wedding, then there was no reason for the wedding to happen. Not on my dime. I made myself a cup of tea, sat down at my kitchen table, and opened my spreadsheet one more time. Every vendor, listed with contact information and cancellation policies. At midnight, I started making calls and sending emails. The venue first. Hello, this is Cornelia Patterson. I'm the primary client for the Harper Williams wedding scheduled for this Saturday. I need to cancel the booking. The night manager was surprised but professional. May I ask the reason for the cancellation? Family circumstances have changed. The event will not be taking place. I'm very sorry to hear that. According to your contract, you're within the 72-hour cancellation window. We can refund 70% of your deposit. That's acceptable. Please process the cancellation immediately. I called the caterer next, then the florist, then the photographer, then the band, then the cake designer, then the transportation company, then the lighting specialist, then every single vendor on my list. Some answered despite the late hour. Others I left detailed voicemail messages for. By 3 a.m, I'd contacted every single vendor. My fingers were cramping from typing cancellation emails, and my voice was hoarse from phone calls, but I felt clearer than I had in months. Harper's dream wedding no longer existed. I sat in my quiet apartment, watching the sunrise through my window, and felt something I hadn't felt in 8 months. Peace. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just the quiet peace of someone who'd finally stopped letting themselves be hurt. Some vendors called back the next morning to confirm. A few expressed surprise or concern. The florist said, "I'm so sorry things didn't work out. I could tell throughout the planning process that something felt off. I hope you're okay." The wedding planner, Simone, called around 9 a.m. "Cornelia, I got your email. I've confirmed the cancellation with all vendors. I just want you to know that in 15 years of planning weddings, I've never seen someone treated the way Harper treated you. You're making the right choice." "Thank you," I said quietly. "I appreciate that. Several vendors have mentioned they'll be issuing partial refunds. It won't be everything, but you should get about $48,000 back. $48,000 out of $203,000. I'd lost over $150,000, my house down payment. Years of saving. But at least I'd stopped the bleeding before I lost everything." My phone started ringing at 9:30. Harper's name flashed on the screen. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail. She called again, and again, and again. By 10 o'clock, text messages started flooding in. "The venue just called and said everything is canceled. What did you do? Call me right now. This isn't funny, Cornelia. How could you be so cruel? You're destroying my life. Please, please, please call me back." I blocked her number. The morning after I canceled everything, I got up, went for a run, showered, and went to work as if it were any normal Thursday. Because for me, it was. I had cases to work on, clients to serve, and a professional life that demanded my attention. My phone, however, had other ideas. By 9 a.m, I had 37 missed calls. Harper had apparently given my number to every single person in her wedding party, and they were all calling to yell at me. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb and focused on my work. At 10:15, my assistant buzzed me. "Cornelia, there's a woman named Harper in the lobby asking to see you. She's quite upset. Security wants to know if they should let her up." "No. Please tell security she's not authorized to visit." "Understood." 20 minutes later, my assistant buzzed again. "The woman is still in the lobby. She's refusing to leave. Should I call the police? I walked down to the lobby myself. Harper was sitting in one of the leather chairs, her face blotchy from crying. When she saw me, she jumped up. Cornelia, please. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you, Harper. You can't do this. You can't just destroy my wedding. People in the lobby were staring. My firm prided itself on professional discretion. This was not the place for a scene. You uninvited me? I said quietly. You told me not to come. I'm honoring your wishes. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it. I know that you've taken $200,000 from me, excluded me from every meaningful part of the wedding planning, removed me from the guest list without telling me, and finally sent me a text telling me not to attend. That's what I know. Please? I'm begging you. Just fix this. Please. No. I turned and walked back to the elevators, leaving her crying in the lobby. Security eventually escorted her out. By noon, the calls had evolved. Brandon called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. You're a selfish, vindictive person, he said the moment I picked up. Harper is completely destroyed. How can you live with yourself? Quite easily, actually. Well, sue you. Well, take you to court for breach of contract or something. You can't just cancel a wedding 3 days before. I'm a corporate attorney, Brandon. I know exactly what I can and can't do legally. Every contract was in my name. I was the client of record. I had every legal right to cancel services I purchased. If you'd like to sue me, please do. I look forward to explaining to a judge how you and Harper took $200,000 from me and then uninvited me from the event I funded. There was silence on the other end. You're pathetic, Brandon finally said. No wonder Harper didn't want you at the wedding. You're cold and heartless. And you're marrying someone who uses people for money? I'd say we're both learning important lessons today. I hung up. My mother called in the afternoon. I let it go to voicemail at first, but she called 3 more times. Finally, I answered. Cornelia Marie. How could you do this to your sister? My full name. She only used my full name when she was truly angry. She uninvited me, Mom. But she's your sister. Sisters forgive each other. You have to fix this. Why do I have to fix it? Why doesn't Harper have to fix her behavior? Why doesn't Harper have to apologize for using me, excluding me, and then erasing me from an event I paid for? Because you're the older one. You're supposed to be the mature one. Being mature doesn't mean being a doormat. Your sister is sitting in her apartment crying. Her wedding is ruined. Her guests have been notified it's canceled. She's humiliated. Good, I said. And the word came out harder than I intended. Maybe humiliation will teach her something about how she's treated me. I didn't raise you to be cruel. You didn't raise me to stand up for myself either. But here we are. My mother hung up without saying goodbye. The afternoon brought a new development. Simone, the wedding planner, called with information that shifted my perspective entirely. Cornelia, I wanted to let you know something. After you canceled, Harper and Brandon contacted me asking if I could help them rebook everything. They said they'd find the money somehow. That's their choice. Here's the thing. I reached out to the Hawthorne estate on their behalf just to see if there was any possibility of rebooking. The events manager there, Patricia, told me that Harper and Brandon came to the venue this morning. They begged to book a new date. Patricia asked about their budget. Let me guess. They don't have one. They have $12,000 between them, total. Patricia told me they offered to pay in installments over 5 years. They cried. They pleaded. The venue obviously declined. I sat back in my office chair, processing this. $12,000. After 8 months of watching Harper spend money like it was infinite, she had $12,000 to her name. There's more, Simone continued. Patricia called me after they left. She said in 20 years of managing events, she's never seen entitlement like Harper displayed. Patricia asked me what happened, and I told her the truth. She was appalled. She said even if Harper found the money, she'd refuse to work with her based on principle. That's surprisingly principled for a business. Patricia said some things are more important than money. She asked me to tell you that you did the right thing. She also mentioned that she's reached out to several other vendors in the area to let them know what happened. Word travels fast in the wedding vendor community. I don't think Harper and Brandon will find anyone willing to work with them, even if they somehow find the funds. After Simone hung up, I sat quietly in my office for a long time. Justice, it turned out, wasn't just about my actions. It was about the ripple effects of Harper's behavior finally catching up to her. That evening, Harper managed to find yet another number to call me from. This time, her voice was different. Smaller, defeated. "Cornelia, please. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please help me fix this." No, I didn't mean any of it. Brandon pressured me. His family pressured me. I was weak. You had 8 months to treat me with basic human decency. You chose not to. I'll do anything. Please. The guests are asking questions. I'm humiliated. Everyone knows the wedding is canceled. Please. You told me not to come to your wedding, Harper. So there's no wedding for me to not come to. Problem solved. Don't do this. Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. I'm simply honoring your wishes. You didn't want me at your wedding. Now you don't have a wedding? That seems fair to me. I hung up and blocked that number too. The day before what would have been Harper's wedding, my parents demanded a family meeting at their house in Vermont. The call came from my father, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "You will drive up here tomorrow. We're settling this as a family." I almost refused, but something made me agree. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I needed them to see what Harper had done. Maybe I was just tired of being the villain in a story where I was actually the victim. I made the 3-hour drive early Saturday morning, the day Harper should have been getting married. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, Harper's car was already there. So was Brandon's truck. My parents lived in a modest ranch house they'd bought when I was in elementary school. Walking through that front door felt like stepping into a past version of myself, one who still believed family meant unconditional love and support. Everyone was in the living room. Harper sat on the couch, her eyes swollen from crying. Brandon stood behind her, his arms crossed. My parents sat in their recliners, looking exhausted and older than I remembered. "Sit down, Cornelia," my mother said. I remained standing. "I'll stand, thanks." "You need to fix this," she began. "No, actually, I don't." I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Inside were printed copies of every receipt, every text message exchange, every social media post of Harper's that took credit for the wedding, and the seating chart showing me relegated to the back of the venue. I laid them out on the coffee table. $203,000. I said, my voice calm and steady. That's what I spent on Harper's wedding. Here is the timeline of when she started excluding me from planning. Here is the seating chart where I was removed from the head table. Here is her social media post taking credit for everything. And here, I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail. Is Harper telling me not to come to the wedding? The room was silent as Harper's voice played through the speaker. Your energy is just off. You're making everyone uncomfortable. I need you to not come. My mother's face went pale. My father leaned forward, listening intently. Now, I continued. I'd like someone to explain to me why I should restore a wedding for someone who spent 8 months using me, excluding me, and finally erasing me. Harper started to speak, but my father held up his hand. Harper, is all of this true? Dad, it's more complicated than she's making it sound. Is it true that Cornelia paid for everything? All $200,000? Harper's silence was answer enough. Is it true you removed her from the guest list? Brandon said the photos would look better without her, Harper whispered. My mother stood up. Harper Marie Williams. What is wrong with you? I was trying to make everyone happy. Brandon's family kept making comments about Cornelia being cold and judgmental. I thought if she wasn't there, everything would be easier. Brandon finally spoke up. This is between sisters. I don't see why I'm being brought into this. I turned to him. You're being brought into this because you're the one who told Harper I was boring and shouldn't be in the photos. I never said that. Yes, you did. I overheard you. Multiple times. Brandon's face reddened. Look, you are kind of uptight. Everyone thinks so. Harper was just trying to have a fun, aesthetic wedding. You don't fit that vibe. The bluntness of his cruelty seemed to shock even my parents. My father stood up slowly. Young man, I think you need to leave my house. What? But I'm trying to support Harper. By insulting my daughter? Get out. Brandon looked at Harper, expecting her to defend him. She sat there staring at the floor. Harper, are we leaving or what? She looked up at him, and I saw something shift in her expression. You told me she was the problem. You said she was making people uncomfortable. Was that true? Or were you just embarrassed by her? Does it matter? She doesn't fit the aesthetic we wanted. The aesthetic? This is my sister, Brandon. My sister who paid for everything. Your sister who you agreed was too boring for your wedding. Don't act like I manipulated you. You wanted her gone too. Harper flinched as if head slapped her. My father spoke again, his voice hard. I'm going to ask you one more time to leave. Brandon left, slamming the door behind him. The silence that followed was thick with tension. Harper started crying. Harsh sobs that shook her whole body. My mother moved to comfort her. But my father stopped her. Let her cry. She needs to sit with what she's done. Robert, my mother protested. No, Diane. We've enabled this long enough. He turned to Harper. Your sister has supported you your entire life. She helped you with school. She helped you get your first job. She's been there for every crisis, every celebration, every moment you needed someone. And you repaid her by using her money and erasing her existence. I'm ashamed of you. Harper's sobs grew louder. My father then turned to me, and his eyes were wet. Cornelia, I owe you an apology. Your mother and I failed you. We've always asked you to be the bigger person, to accommodate Harper's emotions, to be understanding. We never once asked Harper to consider your feelings. That was wrong. Dad, I started, but he held up his hand. Let me finish. You were right to cancel the wedding. You were right to set a boundary. I should have supported you immediately instead of asking you to keep the peace. My mother was crying now too. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. Harper looked up at me, her face destroyed by tears and grief. I'm so sorry, Cornelia. I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I see what I did. I was so consumed by wanting a perfect wedding that I lost sight of what matters. You were there for me my whole life. And I threw you away for Instagram photos and to impress Brandon's awful family. Brandon pressured you. I said quietly, but you made the choices. You took the money. You excluded me. You uninvited me. Those were your decisions. I know they were. I was weak and selfish and terrible. Before I could respond, my father spoke again, his voice heavy. Harper, I need to tell you something. 3 months ago, Brandon came to me. He asked me for $50,000. He said it was for investing in his fitness business. I said no, that your mother and I don't have that kind of money. Do you know what he said to me? Harper shook her head. He said, It's fine. Harper's sister will pay for everything anyway. She always does. The color drained from Harper's face. He was using you, Harper. He was using you to get to Cornelia's money. The wedding, the excessive spending, all of it. He knew exactly what he was doing. Harper looked like she might be sick. He told me you just didn't understand his business vision. He said you were being unsupportive. I was protecting you. Or trying to. I should have told you then, but I thought you'd defend him, and it would cause a fight. Harper put her face in her hands. What have I done? What have I done? We sat in that living room for hours, unpacking 8 months of manipulation, hurt, and dysfunction. Harper told me everything. How Brandon had slowly convinced her that I was the problem. How his friends had made comments about me that Shed believed. How Shed gotten so caught up in wedding perfection that Shed lost herself. I don't know who I became, she said at one point. I look back at how I treated you, and I don't recognize myself. That's because you let someone else define you. my mother said gently. You let Brandon tell you who to be and what to want. By the time the sun set, Harper had made a decision. She pulled out her phone and called Brandon. We're done, she said when he answered. Don't call me. Don't text me. We're over. His voice came through the phone, angry and loud. You're breaking up with me because of your sister. Are you kidding me? I'm breaking up with you because you used me. You manipulated me. You turned me against the person who loves me most. We're done. She hung up and turned off her phone. I need to give you the ring back, she said to no one in particular. It was never really mine anyway. That night, I drove back to Boston with more questions than answers. Harper had apologized. My parents had apologized. But apologies didn't erase the hurt, or return the money, or fix the fundamental break in trust. I didn't know if our relationship could be repaired. I just knew that for the first time in 8 months, I'd told the truth and been heard. 2 weeks after the canceled wedding, Harper texted me from a new number, just one line. Can we talk? I'll come to you. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my apartment. When she walked in, she looked different. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a plain sweater, no makeup. She looked younger and somehow more like the sister I remembered from years ago. We sat across from each other, both holding untouched cups of coffee. I'm in therapy, Harper said first, 3 times a week. Mom and Dad are helping me pay for it since I don't have money right now. That's good. I moved back home. I couldn't afford my apartment without Brandon. And honestly, I needed to get away from that life. That person I was trying to be. I nodded, waiting. I don't expect you to forgive me, Cornelia. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. I just need you to know that I see what I did. All of it. The using you for money, the excluding you, the taking credit, the putting Brandon's opinions above your feelings. I see it all now, and am horrified. What changed? I asked. Losing everything. The wedding, Brandon, my image, all the things I thought mattered. When it all fell apart, I had to look at who I actually was without all the performance. And I hated what I saw. Brandon was manipulative, I said carefully. But he didn't make you send that text telling me not to come. That was your choice, I know. I know it was. I've been trying to understand why I did it. My therapist thinks I was projecting. I felt guilty about using you. So I convinced myself you were the problem instead of facing my own behavior. We sat in silence for a moment. I want to pay you back, Harper said. I got a second job. I'm working as a waitress on top of my regular job. It's going to take years, probably a decade or more, but I want to pay back every dollar. Harper, that's over $150,000. I know. I'm setting up a payment plan. Even if it's only $200 a month at first. I want to do it. I need to do it. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a check for $200 and a handwritten note that simply said, "Thank you for being my sister. I'm sorry." Harper. I looked at the check, such a tiny fraction of what I'd lost, and felt something shift inside me. It wasn't about the money. It was about the accountability. Over the next few months, small checks arrived like clockwork. $200, sometimes $300, if Harper had worked extra shifts. Each one came with a short note, simple acknowledgments of what she'd done wrong, and expressions of remorse. I didn't cash them at first. I put them in a drawer, unsure what I wanted to do. But eventually, I started depositing them. Not because I needed the money, but because I recognized it as part of Harper's healing process. She needed to make amends, and I needed to let her. My relationship with my parents slowly rebuilt too. They made genuine efforts to understand my perspective, to stop expecting me to always be the accommodating one. My mother even went to therapy herself to work through why she'd enabled Harper's behavior for so long. I always saw you as so strong, she told me during one visit. I forgot that strong people still need support and protection. As for me, I started my own healing process. I realized I'd been enabling Harper for years, always fixing her problems, always being the solution to her crises. It trained her to see me as an infinite resource, rather than a person with limits and needs. I started rebuilding my savings, but I also started spending money on myself in ways I never had before. I took a trip to Italy. I bought art for my apartment. I invested in experiences and things that brought me joy instead of just security. 6 months after the canceled wedding, Harper called to tell me she'd seen Brandon around town with a new girlfriend. She looks about 22, blonde, influencer type. I feel sorry for her. Do you miss him? I asked. Sometimes I miss the idea of him. The wedding, the fantasy. But no, I don't miss who he actually was. My therapist says I was in love with a performance, not a person. That's probably true. I'm not looking to date anyone right now. I'm focusing on becoming someone I actually like. Someone who treats the people she loves with respect. Over time, our coffee meetings became regular. Once a month, then twice a month. We talked about real things now. Harper told me about her therapy breakthroughs and her struggles with facing who she'd been. I told her about my own journey toward healthier boundaries and self-protection. Do you think you'll ever trust me again? Harper asked during one of these meetings. I don't know, I answered honestly. Trust isn't something you can demand or earn quickly. It's something that might rebuild over time through consistent actions. That's fair. One afternoon, almost 9 months after the canceled wedding, Harper and I were walking through a park near my apartment. The leaves were changing colors, and the air had that crisp autumn feel. I need to tell you something, Harper said, stopping on the path. I'm not sure I even want to get married anymore. Not for a long time, at least. The whole wedding obsession, it wasn't really about love or commitment. It was about performance and image and proving something. What were you trying to prove? That I was special. That I was worth something. That I deserved beautiful things. She laughed bitterly. Instead, I proved the opposite. That I was selfish and shallow and willing to hurt the people who loved me for Instagram photos. You were those things, I said gently. But you don't have to stay those things. If I ever do get married, it'll be small. Maybe just family. Maybe at Mom and Dad's house. Something real. And you'll be the first person I tell. I'd like that. My parents threw a small dinner party that December. Just the 4 of us. Cooking together in their kitchen like we had when Harper and I were kids. There was no tension, no walking on eggshells. Just 4 people who'd gone through something painful together and come out changed on the other side. As I drove home that night, I thought about everything I'd learned. About the price of unconditional giving. About the importance of boundaries. About how love without self-respect is just self-destruction. I'd spent $200,000 on a wedding that never happened. It was the most expensive lesson of my life. But it taught me something invaluable. My worth isn't measured by what I give others, but by how I require others to treat me. Harper lost a wedding, but she gained self-awareness. She saw who she'd become and didn't like it. That recognition was the beginning of real change. I lost my savings, but I gained something more important. My dignity. I learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't giving more. It's knowing when to stop. Family is important, but you have to be family to yourself first. You have to protect yourself, value yourself, and refuse to be erased, even by the people you love most. Especially by the people you love most, because those are the relationships where boundary violations hurt the deepest. That's not selfish. That's survival. That's self-respect. That's understanding that you can't love others well if you don't love yourself enough to demand decent treatment. The wedding that broke us apart became the thing that, eventually, brought us back together in a more honest way. Not the way we were before, but something different. Something real. Justice wasn't served through revenge. It was served through consequences. Through Harper having to face what she'd done without the buffer of my accommodation. Through me finally standing up for myself after years of being the one who always gave in. Now, a year later, I sit in my apartment that finally feels like home. I'm dating someone who respects me, who asks about my feelings, who treats my kindness as a gift rather than an expectation. My savings account is slowly rebuilding. My relationship with Harper is careful but genuine. My phone buzzes with a text from Harper. A photo of her at a soup kitchen where she started volunteering, along with this month's payment and a note that says, "Thank you for teaching me what real strength looks like." I smile. The wedding that destroyed us was the best thing that never happened, because in its absence, we both learned who we really were and who we wanted to become. And that lesson, painful as it was, is worth more than any wedding could ever be. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? Have you ever felt taken advantage of by family? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with a similar situation. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brings you peace, perspective, and the courage to stand up for yourself when you need to. Take care of yourselves. You deserve respect, especially from the people who claim to love you.